Right, hi everyone. Why am I filming in my back alley today, especially on such a beautiful sunny summer's day, right after my heat pump video? Well, Octopus can't quite come through on their offer to install a turbo for 4,800 or an eco style heat pump for 5,700. But hopefully they will in the future if they bring out a Cozy 12. I think that's what they're waiting for. They won't do a Dakin 12, but it sounds like they will do a Cozy 12. And they didn't confirm whether they needed this almost 2 kilowatt buffer in order for them to be happy. But perhaps they're just happy that they're certificating the Cozy 12 to be done at 12 kilowatts. That means 12 kilowatts at -3, -5, -0. Never gets that cold here, but that's the average coldest day thing. That's the MCS criteria. So again, why am I in my backyard? So I guess we could still go ahead with the heat pump, but it'd have to be through my local firm, who were Green Home Solutions, who seem very good, but they were certainly expensive. I think there's a reason why. I think the reason why is there was £4,000 worth of radiator and labour changes for that, but also there's some complications in terms of where the heat pump would have to be. Let's see if I can point to the right place. This is where my boiler is. You can see the flue. The heat pump would be down here. There'd have to be a pipe going up internally into the bathroom, and then the length of the rear extension, we'd have to change the ceiling in the downstairs dining room in order for them to make sure that the pipe was thick enough to take that 12 kilowatts of heat into the house before it split up into 6 going upstairs, the 2 top floors, and 6 coming down into the bottom floor. Another option would be a complete downstairs renovation. I think this, has a lot of merit actually, because there's a bit of our floor that's been damaged, this, that and the other. And if we insulated the floors on the downstairs floor, we could easily knock 2 kilowatts, I think, off the heat loss from the calculations I've done. And that would allow us to be much more comfortable, and then we'd be down to a 10 kilowatt heat loss, or even lower, 9 perhaps, if we get a new front door as well. And that would allow us to be much more comfortable, and much more confidence in the pipes being able to take the heat loss and have a less complicated install and less radiator changes to do. Or we could even get on the bottom floor, we'd either get underfloor heating, which might add a lot of comfort and get us back a bit of space in the house, so that radiators aren't taking up space and we don't have to reserve a bit of space in between the radiators and any furniture for allowing effective convection, etc. So again, why am I doing this outside? Which is the $1 million question. Because that is that I could potentially get solar. I've always wanted solar. I've tried for a few times with different firms to think about getting solar. I even had to change the roof because of leaks, and the complication of fixing the leaks would have meant we're even getting some sea fret on me now. Wow, amazing, great time to film. But we even get some. We had to change the roof because we were getting some leaks that couldn't be fixed with just changing tiles and things like that. We needed a new roof because of some damage. But here I have this lovely roof, and it always seems daft that it gets too hot in the summer because there's too much sun hitting it, and there is a bit of insulation there, but the heat's coming in, and it just seems like a waste to waste that energy. So I'd always wanted solar. It'd be nice to be able to put it in the car through the car charger out the back here as well, showing you my setup. But I've always thought that the dormer and the skylight kind of ruin the roof for solar. So what could I do? Well, I've been onto a firm that are on YouTube, a firm that are based in Yorkshire but are willing to travel to the northeast. And the reason I'm choosing them is I saw a video where they had, they explained how they can get around a lot of these optimization issues and a lot of the solar radiance issues, and that predominantly may involve us getting some panels on the side of the wall. So I'm really excited about that. Their actual proposal is to go above the skylight and put 3 across the top here on the south-east facing roof, and on the northwest facing roof to put 3 along the top. So that's only 6 panels. I think they're 455 watts. So it would all be on a 13.6 kilowatt inverter. So you could do a G98 for that, which is an application to the DNO for permission to allow to have an inverter putting power on the grid. but I want them to use a bit more. I want to maximise, because you've got to pay like £1,000 for scaffolding, so I really want to maximise my roof space. But for shading reasons and for MCS solar installation reasons, the amount of roof space you can use is limited. So if we look over here at this edge, it's more than 1 metre wide. And the panels are often like 2 metres by 1 metre essentially. But you've got to be 400 mils away from the edge. So I want to ask them, in addition to having 3 along the roof ridge, you can't really see that it would fit above the dormer, but they say it can from the images. So you get 3 along the top there, but why can't I get 2 down this side? Well, the 2 down this side rule is all about whether there's crosswinds, or whether it's likely to create some shear forces than trying to lift the roof off the edge of the building. So it might just involve them taking a few tiles off and securing them with more nails, and securing the panels down to the lats with more securing. So I'll check them there, but I'll flash up the MCS rules here that explain that you shouldn't go too close to the edge of your roof, and we'll see if we can get around that, or if my reading into the MCS rules has been sufficient enough. But if we get another 2 down here, and that's another like 900 watts, so that's great. And if we get some over here on the other side, which side do I want to be on? So that side is the one we were talking about initially, and this side is the other one. So we could perhaps get another row of 2 horizontally just above the skylight as well, and that would be really nice. And now I'll take you around to the north side, and we'll have a look at what extra we could do there and why. So yeah, just to finally explain that this is the west, this is the east. It's going to be a bit confusing because it's reversed, but anyway, I'll see you out the front. Right everyone, so we're outside the front of the house, and here on the west side we'd have 3 along the roof ridge, but I want them to bring some panels down here on the west side. I think we'd have at least the MCS clearance of 400 millimeters on the left, and you wouldn't get any shading from the dormer in the afternoon. Whereas if we try and squeeze in between the dormer and the skylight, then we're really going to get some shading issues, and we might not really benefit from them all that much. So that is the plan, and I will take you inside to have a little talk about the figures and why I'm considering getting solar and battery before I get my heat pump. But what is the best for carbon? What order could you do it? What order should you do it? Will kind of be up to you. So let's go in and discuss it. So why am I considering the solar and battery first? Well, I guess it's primarily cost. If I can wait for Octopus and they can do the Eco heat pump install for £5,700, that is £8,000 cheaper than my local Heat Geek offered me to do. Now the Eco install is anywhere from a flow temperature between 45 degrees and 50 or 49. So that is exactly what my Heat Geek was offering me as well. They were offering me a 45 degree flow temperature, because to go lower would have been too difficult in terms of radiator sizing. The radiator sizing would have been too aggressive. Hi Martha, come on in, go, just go. But that is obviously a huge price difference, and that £8,000 could go a long way for other things that we want to do with the house, or other eco things that we could do with the house as well. So that's why I sort of looked into solar. And just as I found sort of green home solutions through Heat Geek, through YouTube, through them doing good jobs, I found this company called Renewables, who have a great YouTube, I guess it's advertising for them, free marketing for them, who are down based in Yorkshire, and they do a great job of customized solar installs. I can really trust that they're going to do a good job, and I really sort of trust that they can get around shading issues that I feel like I have with the dormer and things like that. So A, they're going to do a cracking job with the install. B, I know that they know how to, I don't know how to, but they know how to optimize everything with optimizers or microinverters, or getting the right balance between those two things to get the solar working perfectly. So that £8,000, I could get these 6 panels they're proposing. I'm trying to kind of bump them up to 10 if I can, to sort of maximise the amount we can get on the roof, but we could even go a bit higher. We could even perhaps get 13 if we use our rear extension roof as well. So I'll pop upstairs and show you that in a minute as well. So I'll flash this up on the screen now in addition to holding it with my phone, but this is their proposed plan. And so what I'm asking is if some down this side of the roof here and down this side of the roof here, whether we could have some more panels put on. I think we could at least get one on each side, hopefully two, and that will really help boost the output. But the output so far is estimated to be 1600 kilowatt hours, and that this is designed to have a 2 kilowatt peak based on the panels being north and south. You're never going to get the full peak from all the panels adding up, which is, we're installing 2.73. Hopefully I get that up to over 3 with the extra panels, but with what they're proposing with just the 3 on each side would be an average of producing 2 as their maximum in summer. And that this would produce 1.7 megawatt hours of electricity, and that would save me an estimated 300 kilograms of CO2 from our energy production, which is okay. But I'll put these up on the screen now and flash them up from a screenshot, but it could be a lot better if we went straight for a heat pump installation. Reason being is our estimated heat loss for the house is 23,000 kilowatt hours. We probably underheat it, and our gas smart meter says that we only use 11,000 because quite often we let it be cold, or we're not using weather compensation heating, so the house is always hot, and quite often the wife's up in her office just above us here and she's using an electric heater, which is obviously more expensive than just using gas, but it allows her to just heat that one room. And the proposal is that we could turn that 23,000 units of gas, or 11,000 for what we actually use, down to 5,000 units of electricity. And that the difference between those emissions is quite stark. If you use the higher figure of 23,000, then that is something like 3.4 tonnes of carbon saved. I'll pop the real answer up on the screen. And if we only use the 11, then the difference is about 1.6 tonnes. And I'll pop the real figures up above. But obviously this saving is much more modest. But it does allow us to, with that £8,000 price difference, is to actually get this system installed. So if I get up the proposed quotes for using a size energy or solar edge inverters, they can just show you quite what we could get for the price difference between the Octopus and the Heat Geek heat pump installation, and for why this is attractive. So they will come and do a site survey. They've made this based on Google Images or whatever software they have for creating things, but you get a site survey for free just so that they can check that what they're proposing is correct and would work. But scaffolding is £1,200, which is just, I guess, what it costs for the assurances and the certification that it's been put up correctly in the hire of the stuff for an indeterminate amount of time. But 6 perlite panels at 455 watts and a 3.68 Sage energy converter would be £6,600. But I guess labour's built into that to actually install them, and it doesn't include the rails and all that sort of thing. So you could go to a wholesalers and see all those 6 panels. I could get each panel for £100, and I can get that size energy inverter for £8,000, £2,000. It's way less than you're charging me. But you've got to have the labour. But you're not putting in all the cables into that. You're not putting any of the roof attachments or rails into that, etc. So I would be careful before sort of thinking about criticising price on that too much. But you can already see I can get the whole solar array for less than the price difference between the 2 heat pump installation quotes between Octopus and Heat Geek. So that's one thing to consider. The next is a battery, and what a battery could do for the heat pump. So they're all offering a 5 or 8 kilowatt size energy battery that can charge at the discharge rate of 3.68 kilowatts, which is based on the inverter that they're installing. I may get them to, even if we manage to get them to agree that extra panels will be worth it, an extra 800 watts on the north and an extra 800 watts on the south, then we might actually get them to put a 5 kilowatt inverter in. Well, I'll ask the question and they will advise me whether that's sensible or not. That's, I guess, the way to approach these things when they're the expert and you're just someone who's an interested purchaser and who's done a bit of research into it. And an 8 kilowatt hour battery. Now with Size Energy, they'll give you that for less than £3,000. Now, the reason that that's quite interesting is that if you're going for the cheaper heat pump install, that has potentially a lower SCOP, although they might be installing a device with a similar flow temperature, and if the equipment with the Cozy is really bad, then it might be performing a bit less good than an EB or a Valent. But actually, if there's not too much difference between the proposed heat flows, then it might not be very different at all. It might only be 10 or 20% performance difference. And if I can, for the price difference, instead of getting better SCOP from the heat pump by the better design or the more attention paid to the system by the Heat Geek, I could get more bang for my buck by getting solar and batteries in. And the reason for that is, instead of paying 25, 28p for my electricity and putting it through the heat pump, creating 4 units of heat from that 25 or 28p, so you're down to sort of 6 or 7p per kilowatt hour of heat produced, depending on the SCOP of the unit, then you can actually be importing 7p electricity and using that 7p and dividing that by 3 or 4. And so rather than focusing on the SCOP number, you know, if it's 3.1, 3.2, 3.5, 3.9, 4.2, instead of that, you focus on the price per kilowatt hour of heat produced, then actually the battery might really be the thing that makes the difference. And by spending an extra £3,000 on a second battery, for example, having 16 kilowatt hours of heat of electrical energy stored, which can be multiplied up by 3 or 4 into, right, I'm testing my maths here, but if you times 16 by 3, that's 48 kilowatt hours of heat. That would do most of spring and autumn, for example. But if you times it by 4, actually for spring and autumn, which is much more realistic, then that is going to be much better than that too. So instead of being, it's going to be more like 64. So that could definitely do even colder days in spring and autumn. Now in winter, it's not going to cut it. You're still going to have, you know, a proportion of it being stored in the battery and a portion of it imported from the grid, because this house can sometimes use 100 kilowatt hours of heat. So it'd still be using some peak electricity. But that's okay, and it might not be worth overbuilding a battery array to deal with just only a few days of the coldest weather, but it could bring the overall cost per unit of heat down a lot. And really, if I can turn this into a more eco home, then I can see myself being much happier here and much happier to stay here long term, rather than, you know, chasing some sort of keeping up with the Joneses plan of moving to an ever bigger home that would even need a more expensive heat pump or a more expensive solar array or this, that and the other. Now Martha's knocking the camera over. Okay, well, thanks for listening. Please ask some questions. Sorry about the gravelly voice, but I decided to press on anyway. Otherwise I just never make these videos if I just wait to be well all the time with 2 young kids. So if this has been interesting, let me know. I'll try and pop up in the editing some of the details of the quote, links to Oval Energy. You've got their own YouTube channel and their own inquiry service if you want to look into it yourself, and reasons why. You can see their shorts and their videos for reasons why I thought they were worth going for. Something else to bear in mind with solar is that you really want to get the bird mesh. So you don't want birds living under your roof, and you don't want birds ruining things. So you really want the bird protection. So I'll definitely be getting that, and they wanted £400 for that. So I'll pop that up as a screenshot. Now, one of the things is to think about if you're getting a solar or if you're getting a battery. So some people want what's called the gateway, which would allow you to run off your solar panels and your battery if there is an electrical cutout, because it might seem quite silly having solar and battery and not being able to use it. But for an extra £2,000, I'm not that bothered. We very rarely have electrical outputs here in Whitley Bay. We've been here 5 years. We had one the other month, and it only lasted 20 minutes or something. So that's not something that really concerns me all that much. So I don't think I'll be doing that one, but a lot of people would. Okay, some of the other things is extended battery or extended inverter warranty options. And actually for only 130 or 300 quid for the battery, for the inverter and the battery, you know, that might just gives peace of mind for 15 years. So that might be something that we do. So I'll pop those prices up for you to see there and do it more professionally with a screenshot too. So yeah, hopefully that's been interesting. Now the alternative for Solar Edge is that they would have the exact same panels and the exact same size inverter, but they just have a different brand of solar PV and a different brand of battery. The battery's more expensive, but it's a slightly bigger battery, but I think per kilowatt hour is much more expensive, so that's less attractive, and the total is coming to 12,900 instead of 11,000 and odd. So I'll pop those up there. The other things that it must be new MCS standards that you install some smoke alarms wherever the wires are and wherever the inverter is or wherever the battery are, just for extra warning and things. So yeah, that's an extra 400 quid. That's probably definitely worth it, but the rates of fires are really low, so you know, better have it, but not something I'm particularly concerned about. Right then, so this is the last bit of the video I'm filming, but I'll try and squeeze it in. And this just involves whether we could use this 3 meters by 3 meters stretch of roof for any more panels. It does have these fibre optic cables, so it might involve having to get them rerouted to be cinched to the roof and then come along down here and not block or shade any of the panels. So there may be a barrier, because I don't know if BT would want an inordinate amount of money to sort of reroute those cables at all, or they certainly wouldn't have the stretch for me to be able to reroute them myself. I'd probably be liable for any issues, so that is one problem. And this is the east side of the roof, so I just do wonder if we could get any panels here. The camera, darling. But this is the west side of the roof, which I think we could and should get a couple of panels coming down here. But it might need extra fixings, so that we particularly concerned about. Okay, right, thanks everyone for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, check out my referral codes below to help the channel and help me keep me interested in making these videos. But it's a great hobby for me, and I just appreciate you liking, commenting, subscribing, and you know, giving me a bit of dopamine. So thanks for tuning in, guys. See you later.